Good morning. This is Kent Blaylock with SDG Bible Study. That's the SOLI DEO GLORIA Bible Study coming to you on this Tuesday morning, April the 15th, 2025, tax day. If you haven't had your taxes done, get them in today. Thankful that mine are already done. This morning, thankful to be up and about and ready to get into God's Word this morning and reading God's Word from the Daily Devotional by Paul David Tripp called Everyday Gospel. We're going to be in the book of First Kings this morning. We're going to be in chapters 8 through 11. So we got 4 chapters to read this morning. So we better dive into it and get it going this morning. So join me as we read God's Word together. All right. First Kings chapter 8. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the leaders of the fathers' households of the sons of Israel, to King Solomon in Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yahweh from the city of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves to King Solomon at the feast in the month of Ethanim, which is the 7th month. Then all the elders of Israel came, and the priests carried the ark, and they brought up the ark of Yahweh and the tent of meeting and the holy utensils which were in the tent, and the priests and the Levites brought them up. And King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel who congregated to him, being with him before the ark, were sacrificing so many sheep and oxen that they could not be counted or numbered. Then the priests brought the ark of the covenant of Yahweh to its place into the inner sanctuary of the house, to the Holy of Holies, under the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread their wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubim made a covering over the ark and its poles from above. But the poles were so long that the ends of the poles could be seen from the holy place before the inner sanctuary, but they could not be seen outside, and they are there to this day. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets of stone which Moses laid there at Horeb, where Yahweh covered a covenant with the sons of Israel when they came out of the land of Egypt. Now it happened that when the priests came out of the holy place, the cloud filled the house of Yahweh. So the priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of Yahweh filled the house of Yahweh. Then Solomon said, Yahweh has said that he would dwell in the cloud of dense gloom. I have surely built you a lofty house, a place for your dwelling forever. Then the king turned his face around and blessed all the assembly of Israel, while all the assembly of Israel was standing. And he said, Blessed be Yahweh, the God of Israel, who spoke with his mouth to my father David, and has fulfilled it by his hand, saying, Since the day that I brought my people Israel from Egypt, I did not choose a city out of all the tribes of Israel in which to build a house, that my name might be there, but I have chosen David to be over my people Israel. And it was in the heart of my father David to build a house for the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel. But Yahweh said to my father David, Because it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build the house, but your son, who will come forth from your loins, he shall build the house for my name. And Yahweh has established his word, which he spoke. And I have been established in place of my father David, and sit on the throne of Israel, as Yahweh promised, and have built the house for the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel. And there I have set a place for the ark, in which is the covenant of Yahweh, which he cut with our fathers when he brought them from the land of Egypt. Then Solomon stood Then Solomon stood before the altar of Yahweh, before all the assembly of Israel, and spread out his hands toward heaven. And he said, O Yahweh, the God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven above or upon earth beneath, keeping covenant and loving kindness to your slaves who walk before you with all their heart, who have kept with your servant my father David that which you have promised him. Indeed, you have promised with your mouth and have fulfilled it by your hand, as it is this day. So now, O Yahweh, the God of Israel, keep with your servant David, my father, that which you have promised him, saying, You shall not have a man cut off from before me who is to sit on the throne of Israel. If only your sons keep their way to walk as you have walked before me. So now, O God of Israel, let your word truly endure, which you have spoken to your servant, my father David. But will God truly dwell on the earth? Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you. How much less this house which I have built? Yet have regard to the prayer of your slave and to his supplication, O Yahweh, my God, to listen to the cry and to the prayer which your slave prays before you today, that your eyes may be open toward this house night and day, toward the place of which you have said, My name shall be there, to listen to the prayer which your slave shall pray toward this place, and listen to the supplication of your slave and your people Israel when they pray toward this place. Listen in heaven, your dwelling place. Listen and forgive. If a man sins against his neighbor and is made to take an oath, and he comes and takes an oath before your altar in this house, then listen in heaven and act and judge your slaves, condemning the wicked by bringing his way on his own head, and justifying the righteous by bringing him reward according to his righteousness. When your people Israel are defeated before an enemy because they have sinned against you, if they turn to you again and confess your name and pray and make supplication to you in this house, then listen in heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel and bring them back to the land which you gave to their fathers. When the heavens are shut up and there is no rain, because they have sinned against you, and they pray toward this place and confess your name and turn from their sin. When you afflict them, then listen in heaven and forgive the sin of your slaves and your people Israel. Indeed, teach them the good way in which they should walk, and give rain on your land which you have given to your people for an inheritance. If there is famine in the land, if there is pestilence, if there is scorching wind or mildew, locust or grasshopper, if their enemy besieges them in the land of their cities with whatever plague, whatever sickness there is, whatever prayer or supplication is made by any man or by all your people Israel, each of whom knows the affliction of his own heart and spreads his hands toward this house, then listen in heaven, your dwelling place, and forgive and act and give to each according to all his ways, whose heart you know, for you alone know the hearts of all the sons of men. That they may fear you all the days that they live upon the face of the land which you have given to our fathers. Also concerning the foreigner who is not of your people Israel, if he comes from a far country for your name's sake, for they will hear of your great name and your strong hand and your outstretched arm. So if he comes and prays toward this house, listen in heaven, your dwelling place, and do according to all for which the foreigner calls to you, in order that all the peoples of the earth may know your name, to fear you, as do your people Israel, and to know that your name is called upon this house which I have built. When your people go out to battle against their enemy, by whatever way you shall send them, and they pray to Yahweh toward the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name, then listen in heaven to their prayer and their supplication, and do justice. When they sin against you, for there is no man who does not sin, and you are angry with them and give them over to an enemy, so that they take them away captive to the land of the enemy, far off or near, and if they cause these things to return to their heart in the land where they have been taken captive, and return and make supplication to you in the land of those who have taken them captive, saying, We have sinned and have committed iniquity, we have acted wickedly. And if they return to you with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, who have taken them captive, and pray to you toward their land which you have given to their fathers, the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name, then listen in heaven, your dwelling place, to their prayer and their supplication, and do justice for them. And forgive your people who have sinned against you, and all their transgressions which they have transgressed against you, and give them over as objects of compassion before those who have taken them captive, that they may have compassion on them. For they are your people and your inheritance, which you have brought forth from Egypt, from the midst of the iron furnace, that your eyes may be that your eyes may be open to the supplication of your slave and to the supplication of your people Israel, to listen to them whenever they call to you. For you have separated them from all the peoples of the earth as your inheritance, as you spoke by the hand of Moses your servant, when you brought our fathers forth from Egypt, O Lord Yahweh. Now it happened that when Solomon had finished praying this entire prayer and supplication to Yahweh, he arose from before the altar of Yahweh, from kneeling on his knees with his hands spread toward heaven. And he stood and blessed all the assembly of Israel with a loud voice, saying, Blessed be Yahweh, who has given rest to his people Israel, according to all that he promised. Not one promise has failed of all his good promises, which he promised by the hand of Moses, his servant. May Yahweh our God be with us, as he was with our fathers. May he not forsake us or abandon us, that he may incline our hearts to himself, to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, which he commanded our fathers. And may these words of mine, with which I have made supplication before Yahweh, be near to Yahweh our God day and night, that he may do justice for his slave and justice for his people Israel, as each day requires, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that Yahweh is God, there is no one else. Let your heart therefore be wholly devoted to Yahweh our God, to walk in his statutes, to keep his commandments, as at this day. Now the king and all Israel with him were offering sacrifices before Yahweh. And Solomon offered for the sacrifice of peace offerings, which he offered to Yahweh, 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the sons of Israel dedicated the house of Yahweh. On the same day, the king set apart as holy the middle of the court that was before the house of Yahweh, because there he offered the burnt offering and the grain offering and the fat of peace offerings. For the bronze altar that was before Yahweh was too small to hold the burnt offering and the grain offering and the fat of the peace offerings. So Solomon celebrated the feast at that time, and all Israel with him, a great assembly, from Lebo Hamath to the brook of Egypt, before Yahweh our God, for 7 days and 7 more days, even 14 days. On the 8th day he sent the people away, and they blessed the king. Then they went to their tents with gladness and goodness of heart, because of all the goodness that Yahweh had shown to David his servant, and to Israel his people. Now to chapter 9. Now it happened when Solomon had completed building the house of Yahweh and the king's house, and all that Solomon desired to do, that Yahweh appeared to Solomon a second time, as he had appeared to him at Gibeon. And Yahweh said to him, I have heard your prayer and your supplication, which you have made before me. I have set apart as holy this house which you have built by putting my name there forever, and my eyes and my heart will be there perpetually. As for you, if you walk before me as your father David walked, in integrity of heart and uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and my judgments, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom over Israel forever, just as I promised to your father David, saying, you shall not have a man cut off from the throne of Israel. But if you or your sons indeed turn away from following me, and do not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have given before you, and go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel from the land which I have given them, and the house which I have set apart as holy for my name I will cast out of my presence. So Israel will become a proverb and a byword among all the peoples. And this house will become a heap of ruins. Everyone who passes by will feel desolate and hiss and say, why has Yahweh done thus to this land and to this house? And they will say, because they forsook Yahweh their God, who brought their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and took hold of other gods and worshiped them and served them. Therefore Yahweh has brought all this calamity on them. Now it happened at the end of 20 years, in which Solomon had built the 2 houses, the house of Yahweh and the king's house. Hiram, king of Tyre, had supplied Solomon with cedar and cypress timber and gold according to all his desire. That King Solomon then gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. So Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they were not right in his eyes. And he said, "What are these cities which you have given me, my brother?" So they were called the land of Kabul to this day. And Hiram sent to the king 120 talents of gold. Now, this is the account of the forced labor which King Solomon raised up to build the house of Yahweh, his own house, the Millo, the wall of Jerusalem, Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. For Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and captured Gezer and burned it with fire and killed the Canaanites who lived in the city and had given it as a dowry to his daughter, Solomon's wife. So Solomon rebuilt Gezer and the lower Beth Horon. Excuse me one second. And Baalath and Tamar in the wilderness in the land of Judah, and all the storage cities which Solomon had, and the cities for his chariots, and the cities for his horsemen, and all that Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and all the land under his rule. As for all the people who were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, who are not of the sons of Israel, namely their sons who were left after them in the land, whom the sons of Israel were unable to devote to destruction, from them Solomon raised up forced laborers to this day. But Solomon did not make slaves of the sons of Israel, for they were men of war, his servants, his princes, his captains, his chariot commanders, and his horsemen. These were the chief deputies who were over Solomon's work, 550, who had dominion over the people doing the work. As soon as Pharaoh's daughter came up from the city of David to her house, which Solomon had built for her, then he built the Millo. And 3 times in a year Solomon offered burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar which he built to Yahweh, burning incense with them on the altar which was before Yahweh. So he finished the house. King Solomon also made a fleet of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is near Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent his servants with the fleet of ships, sailors who knew the sea, along with the servants of Solomon. And they went to Ophir and took from there 420 talents of gold and brought it to King Solomon. Now to chapter 10. Now the queen of Sheba heard the report about Solomon concerning the name of Yahweh. So she came to test him with riddles. She came to Jerusalem with a very glorious retinue, with camels carrying spices and very much gold and precious stones. And she came to Solomon and spoke to him about all that was in her heart. And Solomon declared to her the answer to all her matters. There was not a matter which was hidden from the king, which he did not declare to her. Then the queen of Sheba saw all the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food of his table, the seating of his servants, the disposition of his attendants and their attire, his cupbearers, and his stairway by which he went up to the house of Yahweh. So there was no more spirit in her. Then she said to the king, "The word is true, which I heard in my own land about your words and your wisdom. Nevertheless, I did not believe those words till I came and my eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not declared to me. You exceed in wisdom and prosperity the report which I heard." How blessed are your men! How blessed are those your servants who stand before you continually and hear your wisdom. Blessed be Yahweh your God, who delighted in you to set you on the throne of Israel, because Yahweh loved Israel forever. Therefore he made you king to do justice and righteousness. Then she gave the king 120 talents of gold and a very great amount of spices and precious stones. Never again did such abundance of spices come in as that which the queen of Sheba gave King Solomon. Also the ships of Hiram, which carried gold from Ophir, brought in from Ophir a great number of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made of the almug trees supports for the house of Yahweh and for the king's house, also lyres and harps for the singers. Such almug trees have not come in again, nor have they been seen to this day. Thus King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all her desire which she asked, besides what he gave her according to his royal bounty. Then she turned and went to her own land, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold which came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. Besides that, from the traders and the wares of the merchants and all the kings of the Arabs and the governors of the country. And King Solomon made 200 large shields of beaten gold, using 600 shekels of gold on each large shield. And he made 300 shields of beaten gold, using 3 minas of gold on each shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with refined gold. There were 6 steps to the throne, and a round top to the throne at its rear, and arms on each side of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the arms. 12 lions were also standing there on 6 steps on the one side and on the other. Nothing like it was made for all the other kingdoms. Now all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None was of silver. It was considered valuable in the days of Solomon. For the king had at sea the ships of Tarshish with the ships of Hiram. Once every 3 years, the ships of Tarshish came carrying gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon became greater than all the kings of the earth in riches and in wisdom. And all the earth was seeking the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. And they brought every man his present, articles of silver and gold, garments, weapons, spices, horses, and mules, a set amount year by year. And Solomon gathered chariots and horsemen, and had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, and stationed them in the chariot cities and with the king in Jerusalem. The king also made silver as plentiful as stones in Jerusalem, and he made cedars as plentiful as sycamore trees that are in the Shephelah. Solomon's import of horses was from Egypt and Cu. The king's merchants procured them from Cu for a price. And a chariot was imported from Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150. And by the same means they exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and to the kings of Aram. Now to chapter 11. Now King Solomon loved many foreign women, along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women, from the nations concerning which Yahweh had said to the sons of Israel, "You shall not go along with them, nor shall they go along with you, for they will surely turn your heart away after their gods." Solomon clung to these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned his heart away. Now it happened at that time that Solomon was old. His wives turned his heart away after other gods, and his heart was not wholly devoted to Yahweh his God, as the heart of David his father had been. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the detestable idol of the Ammonites. And Solomon did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and did not follow Yahweh fully, as David his father had done. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable idol of Moab, on the mountain which is east of Jerusalem, and for Moloch, the detestable idol of the sons of Ammon. Thus also he did for all his foreign wives, who burned incense and sacrificed to their gods. Now Yahweh was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned away from Yahweh, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not walk after other gods, but he did not keep what Yahweh had commanded. So Yahweh said to Solomon, because this has happened with you, you have not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded you, so I will surely tear the kingdom from you and will give it to your servant. Nevertheless, I will not do it in your days for the sake of your father David, but I will tear it out of the hand of your son. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen." Then Yahweh raised up an adversary to Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the seed of the king in Edom. Now it happened that when David was in Edom and Joab, the commander of the army, had gone up to bury the slain and had struck down every male in Edom, for Joab and all Israel stayed there 6 months until they had cut off every male in Edom, that Hadad fled to Egypt, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, while Hadad was a young boy. Then they arose from Midian and came to Paran, and they took men with them from Paran and came to Egypt, to Pharaoh, king of Egypt. He gave him a house and assigned him food and gave him land. And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so he gave him as a wife the sister of his own wife, the sister of Taphanes, the queen. And the sister of Taphanes bore his son Genubath, and Taphanes weaned him in Pharaoh's house, and Genubath was in Pharaoh's house among the sons of Pharaoh. But Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab, the commander of the army, had died. So Hadad said to Pharaoh, "Send me away, that I may go to my own country." Then Pharaoh said to him, "But what have you lacked with me, that behold, you are seeking to go to your own country?" And he answered, "Nothing. Nevertheless, you must surely let me go." And God raised up another adversary to him, Rezon, the son of Elidah, who had fled from his lord Hadadezer, king of Zobah. And he gathered men to himself and became commander of a marauding band after David killed some of them. And they went to Damascus and stayed there and reigned in Damascus. So he was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, along with the evil that Hadad did, and he abhorred Israel and reigned over Aram. Now Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite of Zereda, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow, also raised his hand against the king. Now this was the reason why he raised his hand against the king. Solomon built the Millo and closed up the breach of the city of his father David. Now the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor, and Solomon saw that the young man was industrious and appointed him over all the load bearers of the house of Joseph. Now it happened at that time that Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, and that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him on the road. Now he had covered himself with a new cloak, and both of them were alone in the field. Then Ahijah took hold of the new cloak which was on him and tore it into 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, "Take for yourself 10 pieces, for thus says Yahweh, the God of Israel, behold, I will tear the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon and give you 10 tribes. But he will take one tribe for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen from all the tribes of Israel, because they have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of Moab, and Milcom, the gods of the sons of Ammon. And they have not walked in my ways to do what is right in my sight, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as his father David did. Nevertheless, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him ruler all the days of his life for the sake of my servant David, whom I chose, who kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom from his son's hand and give it to you, the 10 tribes. But to his son I will give one tribe, that my servant David may have a lamp always before me in Jerusalem, the city where I have chosen for myself to put my name. And I will take you, and you shall reign over whatever your soul desires, and you shall be king over Israel. Then it will be that if you listen to all that I command you, and walk in my ways, and do what is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as my servant David did, then I will be with you and build you an enduring house, as I built for David, and I will give Israel to you. Thus I will afflict the seed of David for this, but not always. Solomon sought therefore to put Jeroboam to death, but Jeroboam arose and fled to Egypt, to Shishak, king of Egypt, and he was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, and whatever he did, and his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon? Thus the time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of his father David, and his son Rehoboam became king in his place. That's going to conclude our reading from the biblical text. Now for the reading of the devotional. God, who is infinite and omnipresent, cannot be limited by time and space. Some of the most important and profound conversations with our children would just sneak up on us. They didn't come in scheduled moments. A side comment in the car on the way to practice opened up an important talk. A moment of reflection on the day started a significant interchange that went on into the night. We had to be prepared, looking for those moments and being ready and willing when they came. So it is with the Word of God. Some of the most significant theological moments in Scripture seem to sneak up on us. They aren't preceded by a warning in all caps, warning, doctrinal instruction in the next sentence. They may come as an editorial comment in a historical passage or embedded in the verse of a poem or hanging in the middle of a prayer. Be looking for those moments when God pulls back the curtain, revealing who he is, how he works, or the nature of his plan. We find one of those profound theological moments in the middle of Solomon's prayer at the dedication of the temple. Will God indeed dwell on the earth? Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you. How much less this house that I have built? Yet have regard to the prayer of your servant and to his plea. O Lord my God, listen to the cry and to the prayer that your servant prays before you this day, that your eyes may be open night and day toward this house, the place of which you have said, my name shall be there, that you may listen to the prayer that your servant offers towards this place. And listen to the plea of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place. And listen in heaven, your dwelling place. And when you hear, forgive. 1 Kings chapter 8, verses 27 through 30. It is important to understand that God is not physical like us. He is not limited by boundaries of space or time. He lives in an eternal now, and he is everywhere. This truth presents a bit of a spiritual quandary for Solomon. If heaven and earth are unable to contain God, how much less will the temple that Solomon has just built be able to contain him? Yes, the Lord is in the temple that he has attached to his name to, but the temple is not able to contain him. The limitless everywhereness of God is a precious truth, but at the same time, it is hard for us to conceive. We are physical people living in a physical space and surrounded by physical things. We are limited. We spend so much of our time coming and going, but not God. The promises of God are connected to his everywhereness. I can trust his promises because I know God will always be in the place where these promises need to be delivered. All of this makes the incarnation even more stunning. God takes on human flesh. The limitless one takes on human limits to provide what limited human beings cannot provide for themselves. What grace. That's going to conclude our reading for this morning. Oh, how true it is that God he's not us, he's everywhere. And that's a comforting thing to know. Sad reading also this morning as we close out in chapter 11, and Solomon is gone astray. And he's doing everything that God instructed. If you remember earlier, I forget which book of God's Word it was in, where God is instructing what the king shouldn't do. And I think I've mentioned this before in other readings. Don't go seeking, don't gather up treasures for yourself, all this gold and all this. And that's exactly what Solomon did. He built this great throne for him to sit upon, and he had all this wealth. Don't go back to Egypt seeking horses and chariots from Egypt to get strength from Egypt. And don't go out and don't go marrying foreign women and taking yourself many wives. Solomon did all three of those things, and it was his downfall. And the kingdom is now going to be split between Rehoboam, his son, and Jeroboam. And we'll see this occur in the coming chapters. Sad moment in the history of Israel, the kingdom divided. Hope you've enjoyed this reading, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Lengthy reading this morning, so I hope you've enjoyed it. Soli Deo Gloria.